Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I went to my psychiatrist the other day,
Click the thing.
and whenever I go there, I like to stand in the corner of the waiting room and blow on anyone who walks by.
And do what? I'm sorry.
Blow on anyone who walks by. Most people hate it, but I am a fan.
Yay!
You know, there's a fine line when you tell a joke where you have to think. And so sometimes it hits, which probably half of you, maybe most of you got it. But sometimes you just don't get it till later in the day. And that's okay. All right, today, title of today's lesson is Hate Breeds Evil. And it took me a while to figure out the title in a way because of the fact that I wanted to do a lesson on the idea that scares a lot of people in Unity, or especially if you're new to Unity, that evil does not exist. And I know that we've actually had people leave this church because they just couldn't come to the understanding that evil does not exist as far as an entity in itself. Now, that doesn't mean that evil things do not happen, okay? So we'll try to explain it a little bit better today if you go along with me. But evil does not exist without a host. Evil is an act that somebody or something does that that they have to be involved in for it to happen. Evil, and that's why evil does not exist on its own. If you let everything just happen the way it is, God is good and only
Good.
Thank you. Okay, I said only. Sorry. Anyway, so evil does not exist without a host. It doesn't exist by itself. It doesn't have power. What we like to say in Unity is it doesn't have power on its own. Good, though, does. You are a divine creation. You're created by God. You have God's DNA within you. And if God is only good, then you are only good at your core. If you choose to do something else, you're not doing things of God, but you are choosing on your own. And so we know that God is good and only good, right?
Right.
Yes.
And so if we look at the definition that Charles Fillmore, one of the founders of Unity, said about evil, he said in the Revealing Word, he said, that which is not of God, unreality, error thought, a product of the fallen human consciousness, negation. So when we just look at that definition even, we can see that evil is something that we have concocted over time that we may have attributed to someone or something else, but it doesn't exist on its own. You know, nowadays we even have a lot of things that we say, people we say are evil, or people or things we say are evil, even groups of people that we say are evil, or countries we say are evil, don't we? And if we look at it, it's always been kind of interesting to me because I think it benefits those of us who have either studied about other people, other cultures and things, or gone and lived in different places of just this country, much less other countries. They can see how different, what a diversity that we have, and why that people who maybe think different and do different than us aren't necessarily evil. That's just been the way they've been raised and the way they've been taught, right? And so, where does this evil thing come from? Why does somebody do an evil thing? Well, when we're talking about people doing an evil thing, it's because what I just said. They've learned how to do evil things. And what we have learned and taken as truth always needs to be checked with the truth. And you can see in the sentence I wrote there that the truth, what we've learned the truth sometimes is not the capital T letter truth. We have learned sometimes that some country's evil. You know, we've learned that some people are evil, when that's really not the truth. They may be doing a lot of evil acts or something, but that's not the truth, that they're not evil. If we're all created by God, then we're all still good at our core. But that doesn't mean that not everybody's going to come to that conclusion and come to understand that, okay? So it's when you're talking about the evil acts that people do, it's not I mean, you can explain it as best you can, but it's not as easy to understand sometimes as it is really. I mean, it's kind of like the boys learning math right now. You know, sometimes they don't like it because they don't know it yet. But boy, once that light goes on in their head when they figured it out, it's something like, wow, that's really straightforward and easy. It's with everybody with math, really, essentially. I mean, believe it or not, at one point you didn't know how to add. Now addition's easy for you, isn't it? And you might have not liked trying to figure out how to add when you were a kid. Who knows? I don't remember. I don't know about you. I've always liked math, so it doesn't bother me. But anyway, you know, when you think about that, you have to figure out what you have learned as is truth according to God or according to what we have been taught or what we have experienced. And why I was talking about moving around earlier is that a lot of times we figure out that some things aren't the best when we have met other people. When I was in college, I had a classmate that I don't know why we hit it off, and we decided to have a challenge that who could make the best grade in the class. And I'm trying to remember what class that was. It doesn't make a difference. Anyway, he was Pakistani, and I had never, met a Pakistani, but I knew that India, through studies and everything, that India and Pakistan really, Indians of India, the country of India, and Pakistanis do not get along, for the most part. They don't like each other. There's a long story, all long story, okay, about the history of that and why they don't get along. But, you know, he and I got along, and we ended up competing throughout the class to get the best grade. He ended up winning. We were both in the high 90s, but he ended up winning by a few points, which I don't like to admit, but he did. Anyway, but, you know, when we talked about, because I brought up the Indian-Pakistani deal with him, and it was like it's a whole different world, different change in his attitude. You know, if I was going to side with anything with India, then it was going to be like, well, you're the enemy now. And otherwise, we were perfectly good friends, you know. And so sometimes it's always been kind of silly to me to let one thing that you disagree on take precedent over all the other things that you do agree on, to ruin a friendship. You know, I think that we all have, I don't know, have an uncle in our family that always causes trouble, you know, doesn't do the right thing, all this stuff. If you do the right, maybe you're the uncle, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but, you know, when that happens, you know, it's a good experience for people, I think, because when that happens, you know, you can see that, you know, you can still love a person and not agree with what they're doing. You know, I mean, for a lot of people, that's not they don't think that's possible, but it is possible. We can love each other and get along with each other, but we don't have to agree with each other. The class, the seminary class before my original class, because I kind of got put back in seminary. But anyway, that's another story for another day. The class before mine, they had some issues with each other, and so they, you know, the seminary class isn't like a big, huge. It is a big campus, but it isn't that they're all separated, going to different classes. Most of them were going to the same, and it was a different program for them, so they were all going to the same class at the same time. And so they had a lot of disagreements. And it got to a point where and some of you have told the story before, but it got to a point where the instructors, most of them were ministers, but they got to a point where the instructors set them all down at Fillmore Chapel and said, listen, you guys are having, I mean, it's like, you know, the aisle in the chapel. The people who believe this way were here, and the people who believe this way were there. And so the instructors got with them and said, listen, you guys got to get together and solve this. We can't have you going out in the field just acting foolish and not get along with each other. Well, so they made them stay in the Fillmore Chapel for a while and figure out something, come out with to tell them what they did. So a few hours passed, and they came out, and to the dismay of the professors, they came out and said, we have agreed to disagree. And the professors didn't like that. But they ended up figuring out that it was okay to agree to disagree and just go on. And because there's, especially in unity, where there's a huge diversity You know, like I wouldn't be accepted in some unity churches. I understand that. And some people wouldn't be accepted here, and that's okay. It's not to say that's
One is better.
It's what?
Yeah, one is better than the other.
Yeah, it's not to say one is better than the other. You're right. It's to say some people are better fit in certain areas, right? And so when we recognize that, it's not trying to get people on your side that agree with you. It is to get. I mean, I know that Francie and I here are people who push you, even though sometimes you don't like it, but push you to be the best you that you can be, and that helps us too to continue to grow. And so when we talk about that, a lot of people don't like that, you know, and take it as offensive, and it's not offensive. It's what we're all here to do. We're all here to learn more about our spirituality and continue to grow on that path. And so we have to recognize, and I know this has happened to all of y'all before as you've grown up, as you become adults, and some things that your parents have taught you weren't exactly how you're experiencing it. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to me, we've been blessed to have young children in our life now, and some of the things that they are going through and they bring home are like, what? You know, and it used to be, I was the young person, and I would say about my parents, what? You know? So things are, one thing for sure, and the old saying is, one thing for sure is going to happen in time, and that is change. And it is going to change. And we can change with it as far as growing, not necessarily agreeing with it, but maybe guiding it in a different direction for good. And so we can do that, or we can, you know, sit on the sidelines and say, "Ooh, that's bad, they're evil, whatever," because that's not going to solve a problem, is it?
Right.
You know, so we have to get along and figure out what is the truth. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to recognize that truth about other people. If we decide and we say in our own mind that God is good and only good, and God created me and all human beings, then that makes us look at somebody else that we may say that we don't like in a different light. Well, if they're a creation of God and they're thinking stupid like that, you know, how can I try to understand them instead of they're acting stupid like that, forget them, right? So anyway, we have to look at that and figure out what we've been taught, what we have taken in as the truth, and whether that aligns with God. It's very similar to the Bible and how people teach it. You know, all Christianity, all Christendom will say the Bible is gospel. But gospel means good news. And then they're sitting there, it sounds like I'm criticizing, I'm trying to just state facts. They say it's the gospel, it's good news, but then you're going to go to hell if you don't do this. Well, I don't know of anybody maybe somebody does, but I don't know of anybody that says going to hell is going to be good news. So we make that life right now, this part of our life, because we agree, I think most of Christendom, if not 100%, agrees that we are spirit. We have a spirit within us that's going to live forever. And we're going somewhere, right? So if we agree with that, and we have to say that what, in this part of our life, in this part of the spiritual existence that we have, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as far as looking at who are our fellow human beings? So, this is what the Bible says something about that. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Who put darkness for light and light for darkness? Who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter? This is kind of like, sometimes when we look at, even in unity nowadays, a lot of unity ministers, a lot of different people will read Fillmore and say, oh, that's just old writing, I can't handle it. It's kind of like that, but it means what we were talking about today. If we're looking at people, how are we looking at people? How are we looking at things that happen? I cannot stand up here and say that everything that happens is good. But I can stand up here and say that everything that happens, something good can be pulled from it. Okay? And there's a big difference. Okay? Because I do not believe that everything that happens is good. The person that does an evil act, that's not good. But we have to find the good from it. Maybe it could be a lot of different things, but you'd have to take the individual thing. And my experience has been that you cannot figure out what that good is at first sometimes. Okay? So you have to sit in the question sometimes, which is the one thing that they started actually in seminary, which has been a while back, and I never did like it. And they said, what was it, Francie? It was allow the process. No, that's not what it said. What is it? What is it? Well, allow the process to happen or something. And it just would drive me crazy because I wanted it done now. You know, you guys, I was here to do something. This is what I'm here for. Let's do it. And of course, that would drive them crazy. So anyway, we have to recognize what we are doing in our own experience and how we are taking that experience into our life. And so when we call somebody or something evil, and we have a lot of examples of that. I know you can think of a lot of things. We call somebody or something evil. We have to recognize the fact that we have something in us that is just determined to do that. And the title of today's lesson is Hate Breeds Evil, because that's the only thing that can breed evil. We have to have learned or experienced for some reason, whatever it is, to hate something or someone along the way, to think someone or something is evil. And so, we learn throughout our life. Early on we learned not to go out on the highway busy with cars, right? And we don't have to go out and experience that to know not to do that, right? So if we are able to do things on our own, then we can look at that like that. Then we can come back and say, what is it within me that makes me feel like that person, that place, that situation is evil? And like I say, you may not find the answer right quick, but the best thing to do is to release it. This is the surrender part. Surrender and go in meditation and prayer and leave the question there. You're probably not going to get an answer like that, but you may get the answer sooner than you think, because it can always come to us. Things happen in life that are not fun. And when they happen, we don't have to enjoy it, but we have to learn why have I been put in this situation? What is God teaching me here? Because creating is what we are here to do. We're creating all the time. No matter what we're doing, we're creating. We can be, we walk in here on Sundays and we are creating a new idea, hopefully, in your mind through the service. But you're coming in here with your baggage. And when you say baggage, even that word, sometimes we think, baggage, that means bad stuff. It doesn't mean bad stuff necessarily. You're bringing all the stuff that you have experienced in your life with you into the service. And that's okay. And you could be saying right now, Ward's full of it. There is evil in the world, and there is people that are bad. And I shouldn't say bad because that's a little bit different thing. But there are things that are just pure evil. And that's okay if you think that. But figure out where you have thought, why you think that. Okay? And I'm not a kumbaya person to say that everything should be, everybody's okay and all that stuff. Because the world isn't that way, in my opinion. But, if the world is a way that you don't think it should be, what are you doing about it? When Francie and I were not adoptive parents, but foster parents. We were foster parents for many years. And, foster parents, what kind of idea do you have about foster parents? Most people, and I don't know where that really got started, but most people think foster parents are bad. They just take kids and just keep them from their parents. Well, that isn't the case at all. For the most part, at least the ones in fact, all of the foster parents we met were pretty good people. They were trying to help in a situation that was not a good situation for anybody. So when we think about what all we think is evil, or who we think is evil, let's step back for a minute and think, why do I think that? Why has this come up to me and said to me that this is evil? you know, I'm not saying that we don't have responsibility to do things in the world as far as a country and things like that, because we do, regrettably. But I believe that we, as the United States of America, as the population in the United States of America, have grown a lot further and a lot above a lot of people in the world, other people in the world. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that they're lesser than. I'm saying that they haven't been exposed to the differences that people have and be able to learn from that. You know, I use this example many times about Michael Vick, and people don't like, my sister especially doesn't like me to use this example, but you know, he was an NFL quarterback, was very famous here in Atlanta, especially because he was here to play for the Falcons. But you know, he got in trouble for something that he had been doing for years because he thought it was okay. He thought that's the way people did stuff. But it was against the law, and it was something that a lot of people, like I said, my sister especially, really despise.
Me too.
Okay. Some people do. And if you were brought up that way, he paid the ultimate price, I think. I mean, it seemed like they used him as an example, which I didn't really care for. But you know what? That's just the way it is. Sometimes we do that in our legal system. So we have to figure out why that got to us, no matter what side we're on that. And you don't have to choose a side, but you know what I'm saying. No matter how we look at that. And so, I appreciate both sides on that, really, or both opinions on that. Because I can see where, that nobody wants to see that happen. I mean, most people, I shouldn't say nobody, because that's not true. There are people that were paying good money to do that. So, let's just step back, though, and figure out how am I looking at it? What is my experience from it? And how can I better the situation instead of just complain about the situation? Because all that does when we're doing complaining and not trying to look at the other person's viewpoint is we're creating hate. And that creates what? Evil. And so, in fact, the word hate we don't like using. We don't allow it really in our house. We don't allow the boys to say it because it's kind of the extreme of not liking something, And so, when we do that, just think of our country. I mean, all of us in here look like they're old enough. They've seen a few presidents in our country. It used to be when a president was elected, they would say, whether it was our guy or not, we would say, well, they want the best for the country, and they're just going to do it different than I want it to. But now it's like, well, they don't want the best for the country, they hate the country. Whichever side you're on, And that's silliness. We all want the same thing. But if we come from a standpoint of knowing that we are all God's children, we're all created in divine light, then we can understand that, go back to that a little bit and say, how can we see that they want the best for it if we didn't win, however that looks. You follow me? Because there's good in everybody. Believe it or not, there is. There's good in everybody. And so we see with our eyes, with our human eyes, yet what eyes are we using? Our human eyes, our spiritual eye. And if you've done any spiritual looking into that, where's your spiritual eye? It's right here, isn't it? It's between your two human eyes and above it. Now, why is it above it and why is it between the two? There's a meaning for everything. And so it's above it because it is a little bit higher view of everything. And it's between the two because it combines all of it. It combines all of it into one place. It's kind of like our subconsciousness. We have our super consciousness is us directly with God. Our consciousness, which is us right here listening, doing whatever we're doing, thinking about what we're thinking about. We've got to go to the grocery store after this, whatever it is we're thinking about. And our subconsciousness that has not only those two thoughts in it, but also has all the thoughts and experiences that you've ever had. And sometimes we have to go into that subconsciousness and think, why am I thinking that person is evil? It's because something in our subconsciousness, something that we've experienced, has said that's evil. And we don't have to do that. In fact, it brings us down because it brings us down to that word of hate. And we don't need to do that. School uniforms. There's probably been studies, but I couldn't find any. and Francie really reminded me of this before. Well, why do people like school uniforms? Because there's a lot of people that don't like them too.
So they all look alike, and the people who can't afford as well as they do, their clothes are the same, so you can't pick on somebody for how they're.
Right. That's a very good feminine response. It is. I'm sorry. It is. She said that so everybody looks alike, and that people who can't afford clothing, nicer clothes than the other person aren't pointed out and all that stuff, which is good.
Well,
Which that is.
Male response?
What's that?
What's the male response?
Well, I want a male to tell me.
They don't have to think
Clyde.
That's a good one too. That's not what I was thinking. Francie said they don't have to think about what they're wearing, which is true.
That's so true. That is true.
That is true.
So true.
But another response is too, from the male perspective, from my perspective, is that you don't have to look at people that are in certain groups. You know, you can look at somebody, especially if you're new to the school, you can look at them and see them as an equal. And that's what we want to do through our spiritual eye. You know, if we're looking through our spiritual eye, we see everybody as a child of God, then we're looking at everybody as what? Equal as us. And no matter what their background is, see, and that is a different viewpoint than a lot of people have. No matter how much, hopefully, you know, in Unity, and I haven't talked about today, and I almost every Sunday do, so I'll bring it up, I guess, is I'm always talking about wealth, financial wealth, aren't I? Because I think that everybody in here should be at least a millionaire. And maybe we should be going higher since things are going up. But I think that you should be, because God wants that for you. God wants there not to be anything preventing you from living the life that you want to live. Because when we're free of any encumbrance, then we're going to really live how we want to live, I hope. Wouldn't we? I hope. Who knows? I mean, there's more encumbrances sometimes than money. Sure there is. You know, I saw a joke. I don't know if it's what it was about. You probably saw it too. Oh, it's about a new movie coming out. And, it's about a new Angel movie with the guy's name that does the shoot 'em up movies. That gave to that homeless guy forever. I said his name wrong. Anyway, he's going to be out in the movie. You're going to think about it, see it in a minute. He's going to be out in the movie, and he's an angel, and he's talking to God. And he said, what did you do to that guy? And he said, he told me that money would solve all his problems, and so I gave him all this money. And God looks at him in kind of disgust, and the angel continues and says, well, it did solve most of them. So see, it depends on what we're encumbered to, what we are tying our worth to. Whenever we say, introduce our people at a party, at least it used to be, and I don't know how it is anymore because I haven't been to one of those type of parties. When we introduce ourselves, what do we say usually? We say what our job is. I'm Warren, I'm an accountant, or whatever. Whatever. That's not you. That's what you do during the day sometimes, whatever. But that's not who you are. And when we get away from all those encumbrances, we can say, we can look at our life and say, this is me. And this is what I want to do. So we have to train ourselves to visualize the world we imagine God would want. And it's not, and here's the deal, we could still have, in fact we would still have a lot of differences. And I need to change that to different abilities. Because sometimes when we think about differences, we think they're bad. And we need to get totally away from that. But even if we were living without encumbrances and we're living the life that we thought God intended us to live, then we would still have differences. We would still have differences because we're all sent here to do different things. We're not sent here to do the same thing. Otherwise, we'd be all robots. So, that wouldn't be. Well, we're going to find out with AI, aren't we? The change we want to see is within us, though. That's a good picture, Francie. Francie, put this picture up here. You've changed. We're supposed to. The caterpillar to the butterfly.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, we're supposed to.
Yeah, we're supposed to. We're not supposed to remain the same. We're supposed to continue to grow not only in our spiritual experience, but our human experience. Now, who in here, I know that everybody is going to say yes, but who in here, or not yes to this part, who in here would not like to leave a legacy of financial wealth to their offspring? I mean, what would that do for them, you think? I mean, everybody would like to leave, a legacy for people. Not because, at least my reason is, not because they remember me, but because they will not have that encumbrance at least. Too many people in our Western society have a financial encumbrance, don't they? Oh my gosh, can't afford that. Oh my gosh. That doesn't mean go out and buy a Maserati when you got $2 in the bank. Probably wouldn't get it anyway. But I'm saying you have to learn how to not let that be an encumbrance even if you are not financially wealthy. Because we have to continue to grow. And as Jesus did, Jesus did all these things I'm talking about, first of all. Did he look at people that were looked on by most people as less than him, the lepers, everybody? Absolutely. As different? No, he looked at them as the same, a child of God, right? And so Jesus became, believe it or not, wealthy during his time because he did what he was supposed to do. Not because he went out and got a job as a carpenter. Okay, Lookout Mountain. Oh, that's a pretty good picture. There's me and the boys at Lookout Mountain a few days ago. It's a blurry picture, but that's where it is. And I didn't know, maybe you did, but I didn't know Lookout Mountain is actually in Georgia.
Yes, in Georgia. It's at the highest point, Appalachia region.
Well, see, we went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then all of a sudden we found out a sign for Georgia. It's like, we just came from Georgia. Anyway, we went to that a few days ago. And I don't know, it points to where you can see the 7 states, but I don't know exactly. I don't know where, you can't tell unless you know what you're looking for, exactly where the other state is. But the point is that we're kind of all like that. We're on a mountain. I mean, we can be. We don't live that way all the time, but we can be on a mountain that sees all a long ways. But if we don't live that way, then we are preventing ourselves from enjoying that sight. And it is a beautiful sight. We went on a pretty clear day. It was pretty nice. It was beautiful.
It's nice, dear.
And the boys liked it. This is what we have to decide for this whole lesson today. Which is going to be the stronger thought in our life right now as a human? Beauty or hate?
Beauty's tough.
Because, I saw a film the other day, and it was kind of disturbing, actually. So, the baby can't really understand this. Yeah, close her ears. Some lions get a zebra, and they're sitting there, and I don't know if I should even tell you this, kind of gross.
Probably they started.
Yeah.
Well, they were eating the zebra from the tail end first, and the zebra was still alive.
Oh, God, why?
Okay, so you just said that. You said you were one that says this. Go ahead and say it.
I said not. I didn't say that. She said it. It was
Okay.
Anyway, the point is, I said it disturbed me. Now you're disturbed, and you didn't see the film. Anyway, the point is, it wasn't good for the zebra, was it?
No.
But it was good. It was life-sustaining for the lions, wasn't it?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess. They knew it. So the point is that sometimes the way that life goes, listen, when I was a kid, I don't remember how old I was, but I used to, normal kid eating hamburgers and stuff until somebody told me that was a cow. That seriously affected me. I didn't eat meat for a while. So, it's what we're looking at and what we're thinking. That's what the Fillmores did. They ended up not eating meat. But anyway, it's what we look at and what we recognize as the truth. Do we recognize that when we're, I'm not trying to be mean, but do we recognize when we're eating a hamburger? Because I still eat a lot of hamburgers. I love hamburgers. Do we recognize what it is? Okay. If we do, then we just have to either figure out that that's part of the cycle of life and that we're in right now? Or are we going to do whatever to change it? Because we have a choice. We have a choice. We don't have to live in that cycle, that type of cycle. So, back to the point of the whole thing. I apologize for disturbing anybody. Are we going to live in beauty or hate? That's your choice, and that's what we're going to do. Okay? God bless you today. And we will go to a song. And hopefully it'll bring back everybody to happiness.
Are you gonna play the Circle of Life?
I didn't plan on saying that, or I would have. Oh, that would have been good, I reckon. Well, everything I said before that point is out the window.